How powerful is Cox Internet? Powerful enough to let your band members in Vegas, Phoenix, and Rhode Island jam like you're all in the same garage. Get Cox Internet powered by fiber with America's fastest download speeds. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial connection. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence Data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
The South Dakota Stories, Volume 5. South Dakota seemed like the perfect place to unplug. But I ended up connecting to the world around me. A world where each sunset was painted, where I felt adventure's pulse with every step, and where cold water trickling, pine swaying, and grunting bison became my favorite soundtracks. I just wish I didn't have to leave. There's so much South Dakota, so little time.
It's time to get inside the Giants Huddle.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
On Giants.com.
I like it, I like it.
And the Giants mobile app.
Boom, give me some juice.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's roll.
Welcome to another episode of the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. John Schmelk, joined as always on our Wednesday edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast by former Giants center and Super Bowl champion, Sean O'Hara. Hello, Sean.
Hey, John. Happy New Year.
Happy 2024 to you, brother.
Yeah. Did you bring it in hard?
We were asleep before the ball hit, my friends.
Boy, spoken like a true dad.
Yep, and
good job.
My wife was getting back. She had taken the kids for a week back home to visit her folks in the Midwest, so they landed around 8 o'clock on New Year's Eve. So they rolled in the house around 9:30. My wife was obviously, and this is not a criticism, I would have done the same thing. Dad, here are the kids, get in the bed. I'm laying down. And I don't blame her. She was with the kids by herself for a week. I would have done the same thing. So I did all the kids and everything, and then she was asleep on the couch by the time I came back downstairs. We went upstairs, great. And we were done. It was over.
That's great. Yeah, New Year's is a great holiday, and the older you get, the more you kind of gauge it by how early you get to bed, how much sleep you get, and how good you feel the next day. Like when you're young, you're totally fine with feeling like crap on New Year's Day because you just say, I'm going to watch college football, and hopefully you don't have a whole lot to do. But yeah, when you have kids, it's a totally different mindset. I will also throw another wrinkle into this. If you have dogs, New Year, even if you go to bed early, at midnight, everybody starts doing fireworks. And all of a sudden, the dogs just start going nuts.
Sean, let me tell you something.
Let me tell you, that is a thorn in the side of every dog owner.
I love my dog. He is awesome in so many ways. The way he might be the most awesome, he does not care about fireworks. We bring him outside on the 4th of July, and he watches them with us.
Wow, you're lucky.
He does not give two you-know-whats about fireworks. And this is my theory, and it's probably nonsense. But when he was a puppy, and I mean to the point, we got him very young. He was like 8 or 9 weeks, to the point where we lived in the city at that point. So we couldn't even walk him because he hadn't gotten all the shots yet. So if he ate something wrong off the ground, he could get like some weird disease and like die. So we would have to carry him around. He was 8 pounds. So you'd like carry him like a football, right? He's a French bulldog. He's like 30 pounds now.
I'm visualizing you walking down the street carrying a dog.
Oh, I was the most popular person in the neighborhood. You would get stopped every 10 feet because the puppy's so cute. So we would walk him around, and it's Upper West Side. Ambulances, fire trucks, crazy people on the corner, whatever. And I think he just got so used to all the noises at that young of an age that nothing bothers him. The only thing that bothers him, bags. Like if we have a bag on the floor and it tips over, it's like he's in full Secret Service protect the president mode. That's the only thing that bothers him. Anyway,
interesting.
Yes,
all right, good. You've got your dog well conditioned.
Yes, we're lucky.
Sit, Uber, sit.
Awesome. Good dog. Woof. Now I'm sure like 90% of it all have no idea where that's from. By the way,
those millennials and Gen Xers, they have no clue what we just did.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Speaking of which, Giants. Boy, Sean, it's funny. And this is kind of a big picture joke for the fans out there. It was almost the perfect result for the fans that care about draft position because you have a game where you play well. There's a lot of good things they take out of the game. You make a lot of plays, but you just missed a kick at the end. And so you could say, yeah, we played well. It was good football. Guys played well, but, we lose the game at the end. You maintain your draft position. But from an in-the-building playoff player perspective, boy, I mean, so many good plays you can look back at, but they get overshadowed by some of the mistakes, whether it's penalties or drops or bad throws, missed opportunities that just took away a chance to beat a a team that was playing some pretty good football in the Rams.
Yeah, John, this feels like deja vu. Like this, we said the same thing after the Philly loss in Week 16. Like they had a chance to win that game. They had ample opportunities to beat the Rams. And you're talking about the missed kick at the end to win the game, the 2-point conversion that, was a great play design, great play call, and we just can't make the 2-yard pass. Like Chuck Knobloch can't make the throw from second to first. Tyrod just could not get that done. And it's a shame because Tyrod made some unbelievable throws, some unbelievable plays. I mean, that throw to Darius Slayton was one of the prettiest passes I think I've seen all year long. And that's not just with the Giants. That's like the entire NFL.
Dude, how about his post to Hyatt later in the game? I mean, he did some really nice throws.
Even the throw to start the game up the sideline that went through Hyatt's hands and kind of went through his legs, like that was a great throw.
That one to Slayton, by the way, was 61 yards in the air.
Yeah, it's a shame because really the Rams are a playoff team. Like they're in the playoffs, and yet the Giants should have beaten them. And you could say that about a lot of games this year. I mean, they should have beat the Jets, the Bills in Buffalo. They should have won that game. Even the Philly game that I just referenced, like they had a chance to win that game too. And it's just a couple of situational things, the third and shorts, the situations that they're just not capitalizing on is what's costing them. And it's tough when it's the same recurring theme. I know it's frustrating for the players and the coaches, but that's just kind of when you look at where the team is at right now, those self-inflicted mental errors, hiccups, whatever you want to call them, that's what's costing them games. And it's not that they're not talented enough to win these games. They're just playing bad ball at the worst possible time.
So, and I guess that would be my question for you then. How do you correct those things? Because it's easy if you come out of a game, a team rushes for 300 yards on you. You're like, all right, well, we got to play the run better, right? But if it's individuals not executing plays, in the case of Tyrod missing the 2-point conversion, Barkley dropping the slant, Hyatt dropping the pass outside, and it's just one player here or there, but they're doing good stuff otherwise, how as a player do you go about trying to protect that, trying to correct that stuff? I go back to what Evan Ingram was here, right? He did so many things well, but there were just times in the most important situations that he failed to come up with the ball when they needed it. How do you go about trying to fix that stuff when it's not an endemic issue and it's just some plays here or there that are killing you?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's no magic formula for that. I mean, look, the preparation is there, and I'm sure they'll all tell you, hey, look, we're watching film, like the kids are studying, like they're paying attention on the field, and when there's teaching moments, it just comes down to the focus and the execution on game day, and that's, that really comes with confidence. But I feel like when there's an accountability aspect, I always put the onus on the players, and that peer pressure from your teammates is paramount. Like, it's one thing if your mom tells you to clean your room, and it's like she's got to say it 3 times. When your brother comes over to you and says, hey, clean your damn room, like it resonates differently. So I feel like that peer pressure and the accountability, it has to come from the team. It has to come from the players. It has to come from when you're in the offensive huddle, like, man, I do not want to make a mental mistake. Like, getting beat physically happens in the NFL, and everybody can live with that because we know those guys are getting paid too. But when you beat yourself, now all of a sudden that's embarrassing. And I think that, not that you want to embarrass players in front of each other, but the accountability factor is real. And I remember when I played for the Cleveland Browns, Bruce Arians used to have a sheet of paper, and he would put it up on the overhead projector. Some of you may not know what that is, but it would basically reflect whatever was on the projector onto the wall. And he would put a list after every practice, any mental errors, any penalties. Your name was on that list. And the start of the season, there'd be 20 guys on that list. And he said, look, this is week 1. Like, by the time we get to week 10, there should be 2 names on here. And that kind of became, you see the same names over and over and over again. It kind of becomes like, all right, who's the dummy? Like, who's been on there every single week? Right. You don't want that. You don't want to be on that. So I think there's ways to try to, kind of add some good peer pressure with that. But I'll always put it on like the team, the accountability factor, that standard of excellence. It's got to come from the players. It's got to come from the huddle, and it's got to come from the leaders.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
You know, it's funny you say that, and it's somewhat unrelated because these are execution mistakes, they're not effort mistakes. But if you recall, a few weeks ago when George Pickens was caught not blocking, right? And he basically, I think he said, like, I don't want to risk getting hurt or whatever. So Daniel Jeremiah relayed a story. He was talking to James Lofton, Hall of Fame NFL receiver, used to be a wide receivers coach too. And he asked him, this was on the Move the Sticks podcast, and he asked him, well, James, what would you do for a guy like Pickens? You go into the meeting room with the wide receivers the next day. What do you do? He goes, oh, that's easy. I pause the meeting. I take George Pickens out of the meeting. I walk him down to the running backs room. I open the door, and I say, George, why don't you explain to these guys why they're not worth blocking for?
Yeah.
And
that's powerful.
Then what the hell are you? What do you say to that?
Yeah.
And I think I just thought that kind of spoke to how you get the player-to-player accountability that can sometimes be more impactful than the coaches even.
Yeah, I think that's a great case study in, look, I don't want to let you down, and I also, it's that team above self mentality. Like, I'm, as an offensive lineman, it's kind of already wired into you. Like, you want to protect your quarterback, protect your running back. Sometimes those other positions, they don't have that same core value because they don't understand the ripple effect that it has if, oh, hey, I'm just thinking about myself. But that's a challenge throughout the league because today's NFL is all about your own brand. So coaches, that's one of the biggest challenges they have is how do I get everybody to buy into the team concept?
Hell, in college is like that now too with the NILs,
yeah,
right?
NIL deals. So it's going to get worse because now these kids are conditioned in college that, hey, look, the team bowl game, I'm not even playing in that game. Like, look what happened with Florida State. Like, guys are opting out of the bowl game. So,
dude, guys that are like
it's not about the team
third
in college.
and fourth round picks, not even like first rounders are opting out of these games. It's crazy.
So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize.
It's almost become an epidemic from that standpoint. So I think that's where you've got to have the right guys, and you got to have, everybody's got to care about the same things, and certainly you hope that the guys in the locker room care about each other. I feel like the guys in the Giants locker room do. Yeah. And you see the way that they're playing week in and week out, even against the Rams and even against Philly. Like, they knew that the playoffs were not in the future, and that's not something you're playing for. But you're playing for pride, and you're playing to protect your teammates. So I feel like I see that from the Giants. Like, they are playing for each other, and they're playing for the coaches. But that's a challenge that is only going to get harder with these college kids.
Giants Huddle Podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day to every day, Citizens is made ready for Giants fans with insights, guidance, and solutions. Learn more at citizensbank.com. Sean, let's go to the offensive line. They gave up 6 sacks. We actually just watched all 6 of them before we got going here. And I think a constant source of that pressure and those sacks this week, and I think if you go back for especially the second half of the season, a lot of it's coming inside. You don't see a lot of stuff come from the outside and, getting sacked around the edge, which is a credit to Andrew Thomas and Tyree Phillips, who unfortunately tore his quad in the game. So, he's not going to play in this game. It'll probably be Matt Parrott out there. But the interior offensive line play continues to be an issue. And, we talk about the stunts and twists all the time, but we're seeing plays where these guys are getting just beat one-on-one as well. So how do you view that? Is that just something that needs to get improved moving forward from, like, a talent perspective? How do you view the issues that they've been having in the middle of this line?
Yeah, it's frustrating to watch, especially this late in the year, guys getting beat right now. Like, that shouldn't be happening. Like, I look at Ben Bredesen had a tough game against Philly a couple weeks ago. John Michael Schmitz probably had his worst game of the season against the Rams.
And again, these are good players they're playing against, but still.
They are good players. And, for John Michael Schmitz, he's a rookie. He's still learning some of the arts and crafts of the game and how to master all of that. And, when it's a center and guards, anytime there is any kind of stunts or movements or twists, you have to be on the same page. And that they just haven't been on the same level to pass a lot of those off. But, coming into the game, it was, Aaron Donald can wreck the game. It wasn't Aaron Donald that wrecked the game. It was Kobe Turner. And, look, now he's in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. And, he's kind of flown under the radar because when everybody thinks about the Rams, they think of 99. But 91 was damn near unblockable at times. And he beat everybody. He was beating the left guard. He beat John Michael Schmitz. He beat Bredesen. He beat Pugh on a couple times too. So when you have interior pressure, it's impossible for the quarterback to get away from that. Like that is the death sentence as a quarterback. Pressure in the A and the B gap, they cannot run away from it. They can't throw over it. They can't escape it. And it wrecks everything. So it's an area that the Giants have to improve. I think that, look, technique is part of it. The most disappointing thing, to your point, a lot of those were 4-man rushes. And when you have a 4-man rush, your quarterback should be able to sit back there and eat a cupcake. He should have plenty of time. You've got an extra blocker. They're also getting chips from the running back to help out the tackles. So it's unfortunate that this late in the season that's still a hiccup and still an issue. And then you compound that with Tyree Phillips going down. Tyree Phillips had become one of the Giants' most consistent blockers. He'd really solidified that tackle position when he took over the starting role for Evan Neal when he got hurt. And to see a guy like that go down, it's a tough blow. But I think, there's only one way to get better at that. Like, you just need more reps. Like, these guys need more reps. It takes time to develop that and to develop that chemistry. Unfortunately, the time is running out on this season. But I fully expect the Giants to address the guard position in the offseason.
Then in the run game, Sean, this is one of those games where it seemed like Saquon would either gain 10 or he'd gain 1 or 0 or negative yards. For an offensive line, how do you view a game like that when you have some explosive runs that pop and, again, you gain 10, 11, 12 yards, but then you have way too many ones that either don't gain yards at all and you lose something or you're only getting 1 or 2?
Yeah, I think the negative runs and the tackles for loss, like that is unacceptable.
So you would trade some of the explosives to get into 2nd and 6 rather
yeah,
than getting second and 11.
because you can't overcome the 2nd and 12, the 2nd and 13. You can't, that's just bad football. And look, if you get 1 or 2 yards, like now all of a sudden 2nd and 8, okay, you can run it again, and now you're in 3rd and short, 3rd and manageable. But it really just sets you behind the sticks, and you're behind the 8 ball when you get the tackles for loss. So I've always said that if you want to be a good running football team, you have to have 2 good guards. Like, the guards are the ones that create movement at the point of attack, whether it's downhill running, the double teams, moving the defensive tackles back into linebackers, or a zone, getting them running laterally to create a seam and create a crease. You have to have good guards, and that's really where the Giants have struggled this year. They have not had really physical play from the guards. They have not had huge creases. They have not been able to edge the defense from the guard position, and that's why we're seeing some of the tough running plays. I also feel like Saquon, to me, has always been a better running back from the home position. When you offset him in shotgun run.
When you say home position, explain to fans what you mean by that.
Home position means he's behind the center, behind the quarterback. Giants, we don't run a lot of under the center running plays. If the quarterback's under center and the running back is behind him, he's in the home position. Now he has a chance to press the hole and cut back. And when you're in a shotgun formation and the running back is offset, now his point of entry is a lot tougher. That changes the angle. He can no longer cut back. He can cut up, but he can't cut back, because you can't ask a running back to take the handoff, go this way, and completely change direction. So you're almost kind of shrinking the running lanes for the running back. And I feel like Saquon needs that extra time to really see the hole and see it develop. So that to me that's just a scheme fit, and it's something that I think that they need to work on and they need to find a way to get better at. But no doubt, having guys, the oh man, my bad moments, like my bad, I didn't get to the linebacker,
right.
And we saw that 2 weeks ago. Shaq Leonard was making all kinds of tackles in the backfield. We couldn't get to the second level against Philly in Week 16. So it's something that needs to be addressed and needs to be fixed.
Would the pistol work for that?
If you
wanted
helps.
To play the gun, would
that's
the pistol
why
be a solution?
I think pistol helps, because now you do have that two-way go. When the running back's on one side of the quarterback, now the defense knows, like, if it's a run, it's only going to this side. Like, you're not going to run it to that side if he's on your left. So they know, all right, if the running back starts going downhill, I know where it's going. If he's in the home position, the pistol, like you're saying, now it's a two-way go. I don't know. Maybe are they going weak? Are they going strong? So there's a little bit of an element of disguise there.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New You moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Giants fans love a winner. It's why they love Citizens, named a 2022 Best Bank in the U.S. by The Banker. As the official bank of the Giants and sponsor of the Huddle, Citizens is made ready for fans of Big Blue. Learn more at citizensbank.com. All right, let's jump ahead to the Eagles right here, Sean. And I realize they beat the Giants a couple weeks ago, but they are reeling. I mean, you talk to people that cover the team down there, and it is not a good situation in any way, shape, or form. They not only lose to Arizona after being up, I think it was 20-3 at one point in that game, right? The Cardinals outgained them by almost 175 yards in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, they ran for over 200 yards.
Yeah, that's unheard of right there. 200 yards on a defense is a gut punch, and
against that front.
James Conner is a tough running back. I mean, look, he gets downhill, but Arizona, like when you think of them, you don't think of them as a run-first team. Like with Kyler Murray, like they've kind of always been a pass-first offense. So, yeah, no doubt about it. Look, and nobody's going to feel sorry for the Eagles at all. Like we love this, right? We're reveling in their dysfunction right now. But it was the offense that was stagnant and that was really struggling. And then all of a sudden, hey, Jalen Hurts throws 3 touchdown passes. And now all of a sudden, all right, the offense is scoring points, and then the defense can't get off the field. So, look, this Eagles defense has been a problem all season long. They have 11 sacks since Week 10. This is the same defense that was trying to break the sack record last year. They had 70 sacks. So that is definitely an issue. They're not getting to the quarterback. And in Week 16, look, they only had 1 sack against the Giants, which – in the previous matchups, it had been, revolving door at who wanted to sack the quarterback next. So that's an issue. And then really the pass defense has really struggled. They've given up a ton of big pass plays. They've been one of the worst pass defenses in the league this year.
Darius Slay not going to play again this week.
And Slay's out again. So, things are bad when you kind of reshuffle the coaching staff. They've already had elevated Matt Patricia to calling the defensive signals, and even that hasn't worked. So, look, there's a lot going on for the Eagles on both sides of the ball, but I still think when you look at Philly on paper, like they're still one of the most talented teams in the league, and you hope when you play them that they don't figure it out when you're playing them.
Don't be the get right game for them. Don't be the get right game.
But for the Giants, again, for the second week in a row now here, you're playing a playoff team and you have a chance to kind of wreck things for them. So. Look, obviously Philly, they're hoping that they can win the game, and then if Dallas loses, now Philly could jump back into that 2 seed.
Good luck to Dallas losing to Washington, by the way.
But yeah, I mean that's probably that shouldn't happen either. But
then again, Philly lost to Arizona last week, so who the hell knows?
Yeah, and Dallas lost to Arizona too. So the NFL is tough to predict this year, but I think the Giants, right now without Tyree Phillips, he kind of solidified the offensive line against Philly in Week 16, and he knows Philly really well. He was on the practice squad, so that's going to be a huge loss. It's a big game for Matt Parrott. He's going to be up at right tackle. Hassan Reddick is not having quite the production that he had last year, but he's still an impact player, and he can wreck a game.
Apparently, he got dropped in the coverage like 10 times or 11 times last week, looking at some of the event stats, which is surprising. And it's funny, Parrott on the big Tyrod Taylor scramble, I thought they could have got Parrott for an offensive holding on that play. He kind of got beaten inside, and he put the little arm around the waist there.
Yeah.
And the defensive lineman tried. He did the whole...
He did the flop.
One of those where he's trying to get the officials' attention. Yes, correct. But it wasn't called, thankfully, unlike a couple of the holds earlier in the game, which I'm sure as an offensive lineman drove you nuts a little bit. The one thing I want to ask you about, actually, and then we'll say goodbye. The Bellinger hold, right? That was on, I believe, the Hyatt deep post, if I recall.
Yeah.
You had a blitzing linebacker, and the blitzing linebacker did what's called the rip move. For the fans that don't know, that's when you try to get your arm underneath the offensive lineman's shoulder, right, to kind of get around his edge. And, Bellinger ended up kind of getting his arm around his shoulders a little bit near the neck area, and they called a hold on him. And, yeah, you see that looks like a hold, but I thought one of the points of emphasis this year, Sean, I want you to talk about this as an offensive lineman, when the defensive player uses a rip move, it kind of puts the offensive player into a bad situation because you can't square them up like this, right? So you kind of have to almost hook them, and I didn't think they were supposed to call those if the defensive player used a rip move.
Right, and the tough thing with that is if you don't see the rip move, then you don't know that. So the ref has to see that whole play, which they don't always see. I also think it's kind of like, was that defender actually going to make the play? Like, because there's a lot of times where you see a guy flop, and it's like he wasn't even going to make the tackle anyways. But because they just see the guy going to the ground or being restricted, the flag has to come out. So it was definitely an unfortunate call. And for Bellinger, that's one of those things where, like, I'm sure he feels like they could have let that go. Like it didn't really, I didn't really restrict him, and I didn't, it wasn't like he was going to make the sack if I hadn't find a way to kind of grab him a little bit. So tough play, and tough that it came on a big play too.
Yeah. I'd like to do something next week with you. If not in the building, then over Zoom. If you think you can squeeze us in next week.
Yeah, I might be able to squeeze something in. You know, we should have some free time next week.
We can Zoom it.
All right, deal.
All right. Sean O'Hara, John Schmel, Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. Final week of the year, everybody. Giants and Eagles at MetLife Stadium at 4:25. Check us out. We appreciate you being with us. We'll see you next time.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
How powerful is Cox Internet? Powerful enough to let your band members in Vegas, Phoenix, and Rhode Island jam like you're all in the same garage. Get Cox Internet powered by fiber with America's fastest download speeds. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial connection. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence Data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.